Brien Lundin, the publisher of the Gold newsletter and the organizer behind the New Orleans Investment Conference, will join me today on the spot. We'll be getting his thoughts on where gold is headed and whether he thinks QE3 will happen or not. Stay tuned. Brien, thank you so much for joining me once again on Kitco News.
Great to see you again, Danielle.
And glad to know that Hurricane Isaac is out of New Orleans and things are back to normal. The show must go on, right, Brien?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just a little speed bump in the road, that's all.
So, Brien, your conference is coming up at the end of October, and we'll be getting to that a little bit later on in the program. But first, our viewers always love hearing from you and getting your thoughts on the current state of the gold market. And my question to you today is on QE3. Will it or will it not happen? Of course, Bernanke alluding to it last week in Jackson Hole. What are your thoughts? Will he QE? Will he not?
I think absolutely he will. And it's something that we've been saying for a few months now. What people have to realize is that this is precisely what central bankers do. It's what they've always done. On an absolute cellular level, they are raised to print money. They are raised to, as central bankers, to avoid deflation at all costs and to accept the lesser evil of inflation if necessary. Right now, the Federal Reserve sees no signs of price inflation in the economy, so they feel that they have free rein to do whatever they need to do in terms of printing money or quantitative easing without any deleterious effects on the economy.
So, Brien, when do you think we'll see this happen? Is this only after the U.S. election?
I really don't. And generally, the Federal Reserve likes to avoid the implications that it's being political by easing or taking any significant policy action in an election season, although they have done it before. In this case, I think they feel that the effects of persistent high unemployment are too dangerous to the economy to delay action. And also there's the factor that Romney has already said that he won't renominate Bernanke. So that adds a little bit more fuel to the fire, as it were, a little more motivation for Bernanke to try and get something done now.
Brien, you mentioned Romney. What are your thoughts on Paul Ryan as his running mate? A lot of speculation is surrounding the choice of Paul Ryan. He's known for wanting to bring slash spending to its bare bone. What impact would this have on Wall Street? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm a big fan of Paul Ryan's and have been for a long time and was very disappointed that he didn't run for president. So this is the next best thing in my view. I think, quite frankly, that Paul Ryan's plan is about the only hope the U.S. economy has for avoiding a fiscal nightmare, an economic nightmare as well. And if they aren't elected, if the Romney-Ryan ticket isn't elected, I think, interestingly and in somewhat of conflicted fashion, it'll be very good for gold and silver and the precious metals markets. But so if they do get elected, I think that there's, and if there is a somewhat of a Congress that's also more prone to follow their recommendations, I think the end result will be good for the U.S. economy. Ryan is very much one a politician who pushes cutting spending, but his policies are pro-growth, and that's really about the only thing that can get the U.S. economy out of its current predicament.
So still on the topic of Republicans, Brien, I know your conference has a big political aspect to it, and I'd like to get your thoughts on the Republicans stating that perhaps they will return to some form of a gold standard where, yes, a dollar is a dollar and a gold standard is required. What are your thoughts about this? What are your thoughts about the gold standard even resurfacing as a topic 30 years later?
Well, it has a long and illustrious history as a concept, really ever since Nixon closed the gold window, and that kind of gave birth to our conference. We've always been pro-gold. Our conference and our newsletters were actually partially responsible for the legalization of gold ownership in the United States back in the early 1970s. So we have a long history of this topic. I really, frankly, don't think it will go anywhere. The Republican platform calling for a gold commission, it's kind of an old adage in politics that if you really want to kill an issue, then create a commission. They did it before in the early 1970s. Actually, when Reagan was elected, they had a gold commission that was basically used to kind of bury the issue. I'm a big proponent, not so much of a gold standard, but more along Ron Paul's initiative to actually allow gold to be traded as a currency. A lot of people don't realize that it's actually illegal to use gold as a means of exchange, to have gold contracts where you can settle accounts in gold. Just a simple legalization of being able to settle accounts by gold would allow it to trade competitively with other currencies or fiat currencies. And I think that it would be a way of de facto gold legalization that would be much easier to accomplish.
So looking at prices now, Brien, what trading range are you looking at for gold?
Well, the next big hurdle is to get over $1,700, and I think we can do that in fairly good order. If we get some serious or significant quantitative easing measures over the next few weeks or even few months, I think that alone could add $200 or $300 to the gold price. Every previous iteration of quantitative easing has done the same thing. So I think that's really what we're looking at for gold. I think if we have some significant quantitative easing initiative announced, I think we'll be looking at attacking the previous highs toward the end of the year, actually.
And Brien, I know silver's been having a fantastic run. Are you surprised at all by it?
Not at all. In fact, we've been calling for that for some time now. If you're bullish on gold, you have to be bullish on silver. And I'm really amazed at how surprised people are on CNBC and the other business networks. Why is silver going up? It's more of an industrial metal. It's, as you know, as everyone has been involved in precious metals for some time knows, it's really a lever on gold prices. It accelerates the gains to the upside and to the downside.
Brien, let's talk about your upcoming New Orleans Investment Conference at the end of October. Stellar lineup. What can people expect? I know you have a few big debates happening.
Well, we've got a great lineup of speakers. We've got Charles Krauthammer, we've got Mark Faber, we've got Peter Schiff, Rick Santelli, Sarah Palin. I can announce now that we just added Dinesh D'Souza to the lineup, and we're actually working to add a couple of other celebrity speakers as well. Plus, every leading expert in the precious metals and mining share arena. It's kind of a one-stop shop to learn everything you need to know, what the hottest new plays are, what the best strategies are going forward. And you alluded to some debates, one of which is our annual and very popular political debate pitting a conservative versus a liberal versus a libertarian. And this year we have Dr. Krauthammer representing the conservative wing, we have James Carville representing liberals, and we have Doug Casey as the libertarian, and he's always good for a few fireworks.
Right, Brien, and Kitco will be broadcasting exclusively that debate on Kitco.com. So all this taking place October
24th through the 27th.
Right, so October 24th to the 27th. If people would like to register, they can do so.
There is a link on Kitco that can be accessed very easily. Other than that, you can go to www.neworleansconference.com for all of the information.
I'm sure people will be excited to get Sarah Palin's thoughts on gold. Do you think she'll be addressing that, Brien? I think
she'll address the whole litany of economic and political subjects. And this conference is coming right before the pivotal election, and there couldn't be a more important time or a more important topic for investors to learn about. It will dramatically affect the wealth of every American and really every citizen in the Western world.
Brien, I know Kitco News is excited to be covering the show. We look forward to it, and thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Daniela.
And thanks for watching this edition of On the Spot with Brien Lundin. You can email me, as always, at newsfeedback@kitco.com. For Kitco News, I'm Daniela Cambone.